An alien fighter challenged a human to a duel. What happened left her speechless. HFY. The sky above Earth had never seemed so alive. Faint stars glimmered against the darkness of space, but it was the sudden, unnatural glow near the upper atmosphere that drew everyone's attention. Commander Lyra then sat in the cockpit of her fighter, the controls humming under her fingers, yet she could hardly focus. For years she had faced hostile ships, pirates, and the occasional rogue AI, but nothing had prepared her for what she saw now. A sleek, silver ship hovered above the planet, its surface shifting in strange patterns, almost as if it were breathing. The hum it emitted was not just sound. It resonated in the chest, vibrating with an unfamiliar rhythm. It was impossible to tell how big it was or what it might be capable of. The entire planet seemed to hold its breath. A signal broke the tense silence. The voice, or something like a voice, came in bursts of sound and color, impossible to translate at first. Then, through the universal translator embedded in her helmet, a calm but commanding tone emerged. "Human Commander," it said. "I am Thalix of the Sci-Fi Collective. I challenge you. One fighter against one fighter, no interference, no tricks, a duel in space. Prove your species' worth." They were known for their incredible speed, precision, and strategy, and now one of their finest had chosen her. The world waited. News channels, social media, and government broadcasts transmitted the message to every corner of the globe. Humanity had never been so united in attention and fear. Lyra could feel the weight of the entire planet pressing on her shoulders. The duel was not just a fight, it was a statement. If she won, humans would prove themselves to the universe. If she failed, well, she did not allow herself to consider failure. She took a deep breath and activated the communications system. "I accept," she said clearly. Her voice carried calm, though her mind raced with calculations and possibilities. "Humanity will meet your challenge." As she prepared her fighter, Lyra went over every detail of her ship. The Vanguard X, it was among the most advanced human spacecraft, equipped with thrusters capable of rapid maneuvers, shields designed to absorb high-energy attacks, and a control system that allowed her to execute near-impossible aerial stunts. Still, she knew the Sci-Fi had technology far beyond her own. Her advantage lay only in creativity and adaptability, traits her species excelled at. When she launched, the world below watched live. Every movement, every adjustment of her craft was broadcast to billions. The sunlight glinted off her helmet as she navigated out of Earth's orbit, leaving behind the blue planet that had been her home. She could see the asteroid belt ahead, a dangerous maze of rocks and debris perfect for testing skill and strategy. And there it was, the alien ship. Thalix's fighter was unlike anything Lyra had ever seen. Its surface shimmered as if liquid metal flowed over its form, constantly reshaping itself to suit its movements. There were no visible weapons, no wings, no standard thrusters. Yet the ship moved with unbelievable speed and precision, weaving through space as though it were an extension of the pilot's mind. The duel began with no warning. Thalix accelerated first, darting around massive asteroids, creating a blur that even Lyra struggled to track. She gritted her teeth and responded, pushing her thrusters to maximum, twisting her fighter in ways that would have thrown any human pilot off balance. But Lyra had trained for situations just like this. Her mind was sharp, her instincts honed, and she quickly adapted to the aliens' unpredictable patterns. At first, it seemed hopeless. Every maneuver she attempted, Thalix anticipated. The alien fighter moved with a grace that was terrifying, slicing through the belt with elegance and speed. Lyra realized she could not win with brute force or raw speed. The Sci-Fi had numbers, experience, and superior technology. She had to fight differently. She remembered a trick she had practiced during simulations, using the environment itself as a weapon. A massive asteroid loomed ahead. With careful calculation, she angled her ship and used the asteroid's gravitational pull to swing herself around it, gaining extra speed and creating a sharp change in trajectory. It was risky, but necessary. Thalix, momentarily caught off guard, followed the trajectory a fraction too late. Lyra saw the opening and acted. She fired a controlled energy pulse, not to destroy, but to create a temporary blinding flash against the reflective asteroid's surface. Thalix twisted sharply, narrowly avoiding the light, and for the first time Lyra felt the thrill of advantage. The alien responded quickly, a surge of respect, or perhaps curiosity, glowing across its hull. Its movement pattern changed, more cautious, more deliberate. Lyra realized something remarkable. The Sci-Fi fighter was adapting to her unpredictability. The duel had become more than combat. It was a dialogue without words. Every move spoke volumes. Time seemed to stretch. Hours passed, though Lyra could feel only minutes in the adrenaline of space combat. Her mind was a whirlwind of calculations, instinct, and strategy. She had to anticipate not just the next movement, but the next thought of her opponent. The Sci-Fi were brilliant tacticians, but humans thrived on creativity, on seeing possibilities others missed. Suddenly, Thalix made a daring move, diving toward a narrow passage between two massive asteroids. Most pilots would have followed directly, but Lyra did something unexpected. She climbed sharply, circling the passage and using the asteroid's shadows to momentarily disappear from Thalix's sensors. When she reappeared, it was on the alien's flank, a position of advantage she had not been trained to achieve. It was improvisation. The alien ship twisted in response, but there was hesitation, a brief pause that told Lyra everything she needed to know. The Sci-Fi fighter had not expected human unpredictability, and in that instant, Lyra felt a surge of pride, not for victory, but for proving that humans could stand toe-to-toe with legends. As the duel continued, Lyra began to notice patterns in Thalix's movements. The alien was fast and precise, but it followed certain strategies, predictable to a human mind trained to see beyond rules. She began to exploit these patterns, maneuvering her fighter in ways that would have been reckless for any other pilot. Yet each move was calculated, a combination of instinct and creativity. The asteroid belt became a stage of extraordinary skill. Rocks spun and tumbled as the fighters twisted around them, leaving trails of light and energy. Lyra's heart pounded, her mind razor-sharp, every sense heightened. This was not just combat. This was proof of human potential. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, both fighters pulled back momentarily, drifting in the quiet space between asteroids. Lyra's visor reflected the alien ship, and she saw something unexpected: acknowledgement. Thalix's glowing hull pulsed in a way that felt almost like admiration. Humans were unpredictable, resilient, and daring in ways that even the Sci-Fi could not have anticipated. Lyra allowed herself a small smile. The duel had only begun, but already she had achieved something remarkable. The world below watched, their fear mingled with awe, as a human pilot faced a legendary alien fighter and refused to be overwhelmed. She tightened her grip on the controls. The fight was far from over, but she knew one thing: humans did not give up. Humans adapted. Humans surprised. And in that knowledge, Lyra felt the unshakable truth that would guide her through the next stage of the duel. This was not just a test of skill, it was a test of spirit. No alien, no matter how advanced, could ever take that away. The duel had stretched into hours, though for Lyra it felt like minutes. Every movement she made in the Vanguard X was a blend of precision, instinct, and calculated risk. The asteroid belt around her was a chaotic maze of jagged rocks, spinning debris, and hidden gravitational pulls, but it also offered opportunities that only a human mind could fully exploit. She had learned one thing already: Thalix, despite being faster and stronger, relied on patterns. And humans, Lyra reminded herself, thrived on unpredictability. She darted between two massive asteroids, letting her ship glide along their surfaces to gain momentum. Thalix followed, almost perfectly. Its movements were flawless, but there was a delay, subtle but noticeable. Lyra adjusted, firing a quick energy pulse that disrupted the alien ship's sensors. It recoiled slightly, a small but significant victory. Not bad, Lyra muttered to herself, a hint of a smile beneath her helmet. But I can do better. But she had learned to remain calm, to study an opponent even in chaos. She shifted her position, using the shadows of a nearby asteroid to mask her ship. When Thalix recalibrated, she fired again, but this time it wasn't an attack. It was a feint, a demonstration of human cunning. The alien hesitated, confused by the unexpected tactic. The duel was evolving into a battle of wits as much as a battle of skill. Thalix's movements became more cautious, deliberate, yet there was a growing curiosity in the way it reacted. Humans were unpredictable. That was undeniable. And in the Sci-Fi mindset, predictability was power. Lyra had learned to turn that against them. She pushed her ship to the limits, weaving through tight passages between asteroids, flipping, spinning, and using sudden bursts of speed. Every move she made forced Thalix to adjust, and every adjustment the alien made revealed another layer of vulnerability. Lyra began to notice small patterns, tiny repetitions in the alien's flight style, like breathing in a rhythm. That rhythm became her key to countering Thalix's attacks. A sudden flash of light caught her attention. Thalix had launched an advanced probe, a small, dart-like device that moved faster than anything human technology had ever produced. It zipped past her shields, leaving trails of energy in its wake. Most pilots would have panicked, but Lyra had trained for unpredictability. She calculated its trajectory and used a nearby asteroid to redirect her ship, letting the probe fly harmlessly past. The alien seemed impressed. Its ship pulsed in a glowing sequence, a signal Lyra interpreted as acknowledgement. She allowed herself a momentary grin. Humans did not just survive, they thrived under pressure. But the duel was far from over. Thalix suddenly accelerated, moving faster than Lyra could anticipate. The asteroid field blurred around her as she chased the alien through narrow passages and spinning debris. She had to think 3 steps ahead, calculating momentum, gravity, and the alien's tendencies. Every second counted. Every mistake could be fatal. Then came a daring move. Lyra noticed a massive asteroid spinning slowly in the middle of the field. Its gravitational pull was strong, enough to bend trajectories. She angled her ship and used the asteroid to slingshot herself around it, gaining speed and changing direction in a way that seemed impossible. Thalix followed, but this time she had anticipated its response. She released a controlled pulse of energy, not to damage the alien but to create a visual distraction. The light reflected off the asteroid, blinding Thalix's sensors for a fraction of a second. That fraction was all Lyra needed. She darted past the alien's side, achieving a position of advantage. Thalix reacted instantly, its ship twisting and spinning, avoiding collision by mere centimeters. Lyra's heart pounded. She had gained a temporary upper hand, but she knew better than to underestimate her opponent. Thalix's strategy was now more defensive, adapting to the unpredictability that only humans could produce. As the duel continued, Lyra realized she had another advantage: creativity. Thalix followed logic, efficiency, and experience. Humans could think outside rules. She began to experiment, feinting in one direction, then darting in another. Each move tested the alien's adaptability. Some maneuvers were nearly reckless, but Lyra trusted her instincts. She remembered the training sessions on Earth, simulations of impossible maneuvers, physics experiments, and improvisation drills. Every experience she had faced in her life led to this moment. Thalix, for all its skill, could not predict a human's intuition, the sudden idea that seemed irrational but worked perfectly. Hours passed, though neither pilot showed signs of fatigue. Lyra's body ached, but her mind was sharper than ever. She had begun to notice subtle weaknesses in Thalix's patterns. Its turns were perfect but predictable, its speed impressive but energy-consuming. A small miscalculation could lead to a fatal mistake. She had to be ready to exploit it. The Sci-Fi fighter suddenly split into smaller forms, deploying 3 semi-autonomous drones that mirrored its movements. Lyra's eyes widened. She had expected strategy, not trickery, but humans had a unique ability: improvisation. She quickly analyzed the drone's paths, using the gravitational pull of nearby asteroids to force them into collisions with each other. One by one, the drones were neutralized, not destroyed but disabled, showing Lyra's preference for precision over brute force. Thalix reacted, its ship pulsing in rapid sequences of light. It adjusted, moving even more cautiously now, but Lyra could sense something remarkable: curiosity. The Sci-Fi were not used to being challenged in ways they could not predict. Humans thrived on creativity, and that was exactly what Lyra demonstrated. She seized the moment. Using a combination of rapid maneuvers, gravitational slingshots, and feints, she positioned her fighter behind Thalix, a place the alien could not anticipate. She released a pulse of energy designed not to harm, but to signal dominance, a controlled, non-lethal demonstration of human ingenuity. For the first time in the duel, Thalix paused completely. Its glowing hull dimmed, then pulsed slowly, almost as if it were studying her. Lyra's own pulse slowed, but her mind raced. She realized she had achieved something more than a tactical advantage. She had impressed the Sci-Fi. Humans were unpredictable, fearless, and capable of ingenuity that machines and experience alone could not counter. The duel became a silent conversation. Each movement, each maneuver was not just combat, it was communication. Thalix tested Lyra, she responded in kind. The asteroid belt became a canvas for their skill, a display of strategy, speed, and creativity. Lyra felt a deep sense of pride, not just for her own ability, but for what it represented: humanity's potential. Time and space seemed to blur. Lyra relied on her instincts, but every instinct was informed by human ingenuity. She began to notice subtle patterns: Thalix's responses, the rhythm of its movements, the way it adjusted to the environment. Humans excelled at seeing possibilities that others missed. She could predict not just what Thalix would do next, but what it could not imagine she might do. Then came a final test. Thalix accelerated toward a tight corridor between two massive asteroids. Most pilots would follow directly. Most humans might hesitate. But Lyra acted differently. She climbed sharply, using the asteroid's shadows to mask her movement. When Thalix arrived at the corridor, expecting her in a conventional path, she struck from an unexpected angle, passing behind and above it. The alien sensors detected the deviation too late. Lyra had gained an unassailable advantage. Thalix's ship pulsed in recognition, almost as if acknowledging the skill, daring, and intelligence of a human fighter. Lyra allowed herself a small smile. Humans did not just survive. They created, they adapted, and they conquered when it mattered most. For the first time in her life, she felt the weight of something greater than victory. This duel was no longer just about skill. It was a statement to the galaxy. Humans could think differently. Humans could overcome challenges that seemed impossible. And most importantly, humans would never be underestimated. She tightened her grip on the controls, ready for the next phase of the duel. Thalix might recover, might adapt, might strike back with new tactics, but she was ready. Humanity had faced the impossible before, and today they would do it again. The asteroid belt stretched out before her, a dangerous playground of rock, energy, and opportunity. Lyra felt alive, every sense heightened, every thought focused. She was not just fighting an alien pilot. She was proving what it meant to be human. And the Sci-Fi, for the first time in history, were beginning to realize that humans were unlike any other species they had encountered. The duel had now entered a stage where skill alone would not decide the outcome. Lyra's mind raced as she navigated the asteroid belt, keeping track of Thalix's every movement, every pulse of energy, every subtle shift. Her body ached from the tension, but her mind was sharper than ever. The human brain had a unique strength. It could adapt, improvise, and create solutions in the midst of chaos, something no Sci-Fi fighter could anticipate completely. Thalix, sensing the challenge, had taken a bold step. Its ship emitted a pulse that split into multiple smaller drones, 3 of them at first, then 5, each moving independently. They were sleek, faster than her fighter and precise in their approach. Humans had never faced this before, and even seasoned pilots would have panicked. But Lyra had trained for unpredictability. She could see opportunities where others would see only danger. She analyzed the drone's trajectories, calculating gravitational pulls, momentum, and energy patterns. A risky plan formed in her mind. Using the largest asteroid nearby, she plotted a maneuver that would force the drones into collisions with each other. It was precise, dangerous, and required split-second timing. Lyra pressed the thrusters, angling her fighter to the asteroid's edge, and released a controlled energy pulse. The drones accelerated toward her, reacting as Thalix intended. But she had anticipated every move. Using the asteroid's gravity, she manipulated their paths, and one by one, the drones collided, emitting bright flashes of energy but remaining unharmed. They were neutralized. Thalix pulsed in response, a series of lights that communicated surprise, curiosity, and maybe even admiration. Humans, it seemed, were far more unpredictable than the Sci-Fi had expected. Lyra allowed herself a moment of satisfaction, but she knew better than to relax. The alien fighter was calculating, intelligent, and would soon adapt to this new strategy. She continued her maneuvers, weaving between the asteroids in a dance of speed and precision. Every move was a test, not just of her skills, but of her ability to anticipate Thalix's next thought. Humans were creative, yes, but the real strength lay in their courage to act on that creativity even when the outcome was uncertain. Thalix struck again, accelerating toward a narrow passage that seemed impossible to navigate. Most pilots would follow predictably, but Lyra acted differently. She climbed sharply, using the asteroid's shadow to disappear from sensors momentarily. Then, in a sudden burst of speed, she passed above and behind the alien fighter, gaining an advantageous position. The alien sensors detected her movement too late. Lyra fired a controlled pulse, not to damage but to demonstrate tactical superiority. Thalix twisted sharply to avoid it, but the movement revealed its position and pattern. Lyra realized that the duel had evolved into more than combat. It was now a test of ingenuity, creativity, and adaptability. She studied Thalix's flight pattern, noting subtle rhythms in its movement, slight delays that indicated thought processes. Humans were unpredictable because they could imagine beyond rules, beyond what seemed possible. She began using that advantage, feinting in one direction and attacking from another, forcing Thalix to respond in ways it had not anticipated. Hours passed, yet neither fighter showed signs of slowing. Lyra felt exhaustion creeping into her body, but her mind remained alert. She had learned long ago that endurance was as much mental as it was physical. She relied on intuition, on knowledge, and on her willingness to take calculated risks. Then came a critical moment. Thalix made a maneuver that could have been deadly. Its ship accelerated through a dense cluster of asteroids, expecting Lyra to follow directly. Most human pilots would have mirrored the movement, but Lyra had something they could not anticipate: ingenuity. She climbed sharply, avoiding the direct path, and used the asteroids to obscure her position. When the Sci-Fi fighter passed, she struck from an unexpected angle. The alien sensors flared in surprise. Lyra had gained an unassailable advantage. Thalix's hull pulsed slowly, almost as if acknowledging the skill, daring, and intelligence of the human pilot. Lyra felt a surge of pride. Humans did not just survive challenges, they created, adapted, and overcame. That was what separated them from even the most advanced species in the galaxy. But Thalix was not defeated yet. The alien fighter adjusted, moving more cautiously, but its curiosity was clear. It had never encountered a species so unpredictable, so daring, and so willing to act on instinct combined with creativity. Lyra realized that the duel had become a silent conversation. Every movement, every maneuver was a statement. Humans were more than survival machines. They were thinkers, problem solvers, and innovators. Lyra decided it was time to take the next bold step. Using the largest asteroid as a pivot, she executed a maneuver that would be considered reckless by any standard. She angled her fighter at impossible speeds, twisting through narrow spaces, using gravitational slingshots to gain momentum. Thalix followed, but it was slower to adapt this time. Lyra used the delay to position herself behind the alien, ready for a decisive move. Her plan was simple but brilliant. She would create a decoy, a simulated version of her ship. Using holographic technology integrated into the Vanguard X, the decoy would mimic her exact movements, tricking Thalix's sensors while the real ship circled behind. It was risky. If Thalix detected the ruse, she could be trapped, but she had faith in human creativity. The decoy surged forward, perfectly synchronized with Lyra's previous trajectory. Thalix accelerated toward it, responding as it had been trained to do, and then Lyra struck from behind. She released a controlled energy pulse aimed at the alien's propulsion system. The effect was immediate. Thalix's ship jolted, struggling to maintain control, caught off guard by the unexpected maneuver. For the first time in the duel, Thalix was at a disadvantage. Lyra held her position, watching as the alien fighter drifted slightly, its movements slower and more deliberate. She allowed herself a small smile. Humans did not rely solely on technology. They relied on creativity, intelligence, and the courage to act when others hesitated. That was the key to their strength, but Lyra did not celebrate. She knew the duel was far from over. Thalix was resilient, intelligent, and capable of learning quickly. The Sci-Fi had survived countless battles, and defeat was not something they accepted lightly. She needed to maintain focus, to continue using human ingenuity as her greatest weapon. She navigated through the asteroid belt with renewed confidence, using every rock, every shadow, and every gravitational pull to her advantage. Thalix struggled to keep pace, its movements calculated but slower, constrained by the unexpected tactics it now faced. Lyra felt a surge of pride, not just in her skill but in what it represented, humanity's potential. The duel had become more than a fight. It was a test of spirit. Humans were not the strongest, fastest, or most technologically advanced species, but they were clever, resourceful, and willing to take risks that others would not. Lyra had demonstrated that in every maneuver, every feint, every calculated risk. Thalix pulsed in response, a series of lights that communicated acknowledgement and perhaps a growing respect. Lyra realized that she had done more than gain a tactical advantage. She had proven a point. Humans were worthy opponents, capable of thinking beyond rules and surviving through intelligence and creativity. The asteroid belt stretched endlessly, a dangerous playground for both fighters. Lyra's mind remained sharp, every decision deliberate, every movement purposeful. She had faced impossible odds before, but this duel was different. It was not just about survival, it was about proving the unique strength of the human spirit. As the hours continued, Lyra executed a series of maneuvers that tested the limits of human ingenuity. She used decoys, gravitational slingshots, and unexpected bursts of speed to keep Thalix off balance. The alien fighter responded with precision, but every adjustment revealed the limitations of relying solely on logic and experience. Humans could adapt, improvise, and create possibilities that others could not anticipate. Finally, Lyra saw the opening she had been waiting for. Thalix had made a minor miscalculation, one she could exploit. She angled her fighter for a decisive strike, using every advantage the asteroid belt offered. Her pulse quickened, but her mind was calm, focused, and confident. This was the moment where human creativity could triumph over raw power. With a calculated burst of speed, she positioned herself behind Thalix, her sensors locked on the alien's propulsion system. She released a controlled pulse, not to destroy, but to disable temporarily. The effect was immediate. Thalix jolted, struggling to regain balance, and for the first time Lyra realized she had the upper hand. The Sci-Fi fighter, elegant and deadly moments before, now drifted slightly, vulnerable and unsteady. Lyra's heart pounded, but she did not falter. She had proven humanity's ingenuity, resourcefulness, and courage. The duel was far from over, but the scales had shifted. Humans were not the strongest, not the fastest, and certainly not the most technologically advanced. But they had something no alien could replicate: creativity, adaptability, and the courage to act against impossible odds. And Lyra, in that moment, embodied every strength her species possessed. The asteroid belt stretched endlessly before Lyra, a dangerous maze of jagged rocks and shifting debris. Every maneuver she executed required split-second precision, yet her mind remained calm, sharp, and focused. Thalix, the Sci-Fi fighter, had finally shown signs of vulnerability, but Lyra knew better than to underestimate her opponent. Alien warriors were resilient, intelligent, and capable of adapting quickly. Every second counted. Every decision mattered. She studied Thalix's movements, observing subtle changes in speed and angle. The alien was cautious, now defensive, and yet there was curiosity in its response. It had never faced a human like her, one who combined instinct, creativity, and courage in ways it could not anticipate. Lyra realized that this duel had become more than a battle. It was a conversation, an exchange of respect between two species. Her plan was simple but risky. She would exploit the asteroid belt not just for cover but as a tool. Using the largest asteroids as pivots, she intended to force Thalix into a position where escape was nearly impossible. Timing was everything. One wrong move and the advantage could vanish. She had only a few moments to act, but her instincts screamed confidence. With a sudden burst of speed, she weaved through the maze of asteroids, her fighter twisting and spinning in ways that seemed impossible. Thalix followed, trying to anticipate her trajectory, but the alien's calculations could not account for human unpredictability. Lyra had become a force the Sci-Fi could not fully understand: inventive, daring, and fearless. She released a decoy, a holographic copy of her fighter, sending it darting in one direction while she maneuvered in another. Thalix accelerated toward the decoy, momentarily distracted. That fraction of a second was enough. Lyra angled her ship behind the alien, targeting the propulsion system with a controlled energy pulse. The pulse struck perfectly. Thalix jolted, its ship spinning slightly out of control. Lyra maintained distance, careful not to destroy the alien but demonstrating her superiority. Thalix's hull pulsed in a series of lights, an acknowledgement of defeat, or perhaps respect. Lyra allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had proven something extraordinary. Ingenuity and courage could rival even the most advanced alien technology. But the duel was not over. Thalix, recovering quickly, attempted one last maneuver. Its ship accelerated toward a narrow gap between two massive asteroids, a move designed to force Lyra into a collision or miscalculation. Most humans would have panicked. Most aliens would have relied on sheer power to dominate, but Lyra saw opportunity. She could use this maneuver to her advantage. She angled her ship sharply, climbing above the corridor while letting gravity from the asteroids propel her forward. In a single, fluid motion, she circled behind Thalix, positioning herself perfectly. The Sci-Fi fighter, caught off guard again, struggled to recalibrate. Lyra had achieved the upper hand not through strength, but through ingenuity. The asteroid belt became a theater of extraordinary skill. Rocks spun and tumbled, energy trails left streaks of light, and both fighters moved like dancers in a cosmic ballet. Lyra's every move demonstrated not just training but creativity, instinct, and the willingness to take calculated risks. Thalix, despite being one of the galaxy's most feared warriors, could only react. She decided to communicate. Extending her ship's universal signal, she sent a simple pulse, a gesture of respect. It was not a threat, nor a challenge, it was acknowledgement. The duel had shown her the power of humanity, but she also recognized the value of her opponent's skill. Thalix responded, its hull pulsing in synchronized light. For the first time, Lyra felt a strange connection across species, respect born from challenge, from testing limits, from pushing boundaries. Time seemed to stretch. The duel had lasted hours, yet Lyra's mind remained keen. She could feel the moment approaching when the final decision would be made, when the balance of power would shift definitively. Thalix made one last feint, attempting to regain control, but Lyra anticipated it. Her movements were precise, each calculated step designed to maintain advantage. Then she executed the final maneuver. Using the gravitational pull of a massive asteroid, she slingshot her fighter in a sharp arc, looping behind Thalix's ship. The alien sensors detected her too late. Lyra released a controlled pulse aimed at the alien's propulsion system. Thalix jolted violently, its ship spinning, drifting helplessly for the first time in the duel. Lyra maintained distance, careful not to destroy, only to demonstrate dominance. She realized then that the duel had proven more than skill. It had shown something unique about humans. Strength and speed were important, but creativity, courage, and the ability to improvise under pressure were even more powerful. She sent another signal, extending a virtual hand across space. It was a gesture of respect, not hostility. Thalix's ship remained still for a moment, then pulsed, slowly at first, then more rapidly. The alien fighter had recognized her brilliance, humanity's brilliance. Lyra allowed herself a deep breath, pride swelling in her chest. Humans had faced impossible odds and triumphed through ingenuity. The asteroid belt, once a dangerous maze, now bore witness to the human spirit. Lyra's movements had combined strategy, creativity, and courage in ways that no Sci-Fi could fully comprehend. Her decoys, her gravitational maneuvers, her calculated bursts of speed, all demonstrated that humans were more than what aliens assumed. They were thinkers, problem solvers, and daring pioneers of the impossible. Thalix, regaining some stability, pulsed in acknowledgement again. Lyra knew this was more than victory, it was recognition. Humanity had proven itself capable of brilliance, of overcoming challenges that seemed insurmountable, of facing the unknown without fear. The duel slowly drew to a close. Lyra guided her fighter carefully, ensuring Thalix's ship remained stable. She did not attack further. There was no need. The message had been sent and received. Humans were not to be underestimated. They were resilient, creative, and capable of extraordinary feats. As she returned toward Earth, the planet below seemed brighter, more alive. She could feel the pride of billions of people watching, knowing that their representative had faced one of the galaxy's greatest warriors and prevailed. Lyra had not only demonstrated skill, she had demonstrated humanity's greatest qualities. Thalix remained in the asteroid belt for a moment longer, then began a slow, deliberate journey away, leaving Lyra with the acknowledgement of victory. The Sci-Fi would speak of this duel for generations, recounting the moment a human pilot had challenged one of their finest and left them speechless. Lyra's heart swelled with a sense of accomplishment. She had done more than win a duel. She had proven that humans could innovate, adapt, and overcome. She had shown that the human spirit was a force unlike any other in the universe. As she approached Earth's orbit, the world below erupted in celebration. Communications from every corner of the globe poured in. Congratulations, admiration, pride. Lyra had become more than a pilot. She was a symbol of humanity's potential. The duel would be remembered not for violence, but for courage, creativity, and respect between species. She landed her fighter smoothly, exiting the cockpit to the cheers of her team and millions watching live. Lyra stood tall, knowing that humanity had faced the impossible and prevailed, not through superior technology alone, but through ingenuity, courage, and the unshakable human spirit. In the days that followed, the galaxy began to take notice. Reports of the duel spread to distant civilizations, sparking curiosity, respect, and a newfound understanding of humanity. Humans were no longer underestimated. They were admired not for conquest, but for their ability to think differently, to innovate, and to face challenges with courage. Lyra reflected on the duel, understanding that victory was not the end. It was a beginning, a demonstration that humans could stand among the stars, not as weak or primitive beings, but as a species capable of extraordinary feats. She looked up at the sky, at the stars beyond Earth's atmosphere, and felt hope. The galaxy was vast and full of challenges, but humanity had proven that it could face anything with creativity, courage, and determination. And in that knowledge, Lyra smiled, knowing that the human story was only beginning, and the universe would never underestimate them again. The duel had ended, but its impact would echo across generations. Lyra had not just faced an alien fighter, she had shown the universe what it meant to be human. And for the first time, humans themselves truly believed in the power of their own spirit.